I bolted upright, a searing pain splitting my skull. The bed beneath me was unfamiliar, and I was draped in a white silk nightgown that felt alien against my skin. A monstrous diamond ring, glinting like ice, adorned my left hand. Panic, sharp and immediate, clawed at my throat. The room swam as I struggled to sit up, desperately trying to piece together the shattered remnants of the previous night. Vegas, my best friend's bachelorette party. A blur of cocktails, a club with a name lost in the alcoholic haze, dancing that stretched into oblivion, and then nothing. A complete, terrifying blackout. The ring caught the morning sun, the emerald-cut diamond easily 4 carats, cradled by smaller stones in a platinum setting so intricate it resembled frozen lace. This wasn't some gaudy trinket from a casino gift shop. This was serious money, the kind of ring that could buy a small house, or at least cover my salary as a high school English teacher for a good couple of years. The bedroom itself was equally intimidating. A vast expanse with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of the Vegas Strip, shimmering in the morning light. The furniture whispered of obscene wealth, and the art on the walls looked like it belonged in a museum, not someone's private residence. This wasn't a hotel suite. This was someone's home. Someone incredibly wealthy. I stumbled out of bed, still clad in the silk nightgown, desperately searching for my clothes from the night before. Where were my jeans, my t-shirt, my trusty Converse sneakers? I reached for the door, my heart hammering against my ribs, and found it unlocked. The hallway beyond was even more breathtaking. A gleaming expanse of marble floors, the light fractured by a massive crystal chandelier. The sheer opulence of it all made me feel like I'd wandered onto a movie set, a glamorous, unsettling dream. Hello! My voice was a scratchy croak, my throat parched from the previous night's excesses. Is anyone here? Good morning, Mrs. Russo. A woman appeared, seemingly out of nowhere. She was older, impeccably dressed in a tailored suit, with the quiet efficiency of a seasoned housekeeper. Mr. Russo asked me to ensure you had everything you needed upon waking. How are you feeling? Mrs. Russo? I repeated, my voice rising in disbelief. No, there's been a mistake. I'm Zoe. Zoe Mitchell. I don't know who Mrs. Russo is, but it's definitely not me. The housekeeper's expression remained impassive, a mask of professional neutrality. Perhaps you should speak with Mr. Russo. He's been waiting for you to wake up. I'll let him know you're ready. Ready for what? I don't know any Mr. Russo. I need to find my friends, find my phone, figure out what happened last night. Your phone is charging in the sitting room. Your friends have been notified that you're safe, and Mr. Russo will explain everything. She gestured down the hallway with a graceful wave of her hand. Please follow me. I followed her, my mind reeling, because I honestly didn't know what else to do. My head throbbed, my memory was a fragmented mess, and I was apparently trapped in a stranger's mansion, being addressed as Mrs. Russo. This had to be some elaborate mistake, or a cruel, twisted prank. Maybe one of my friends had cooked this up as some kind of over-the-top Vegas gag, but even that seemed unlikely. The sitting room was as extravagantly furnished as the rest of the house, sunlight streaming through the windows. And there, sitting by the window, reading a newspaper and sipping morning coffee, was a man who looked like he'd stepped straight out of a classic Mafia film. Dark hair, sharp features, an expensive suit that probably cost more than my car. Even at this ungodly hour, he radiated an air of controlled danger that made me freeze in the doorway. He looked up, his dark eyes sweeping over me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. Zoe, good you're awake. How's your head? How do you know my name? Who are you? Why am I here? I instinctively stayed near the door, ready to bolt if necessary. And why is your housekeeper calling me Mrs. Russo? Because that's your name now, at least legally. He set down his newspaper, the gesture surprisingly elegant, and stood, revealing a powerfully built frame moving with the almost feline grace of someone accustomed to violence. I'm Luca Russo, and according to the state of Nevada, we got married last night. You don't remember? The room seemed to tilt again. That's not funny. I didn't get married. I was at my friend's bachelorette party. We went to clubs, had drinks, but I would never. Let me show you something. He retrieved his phone from the table, brought up a video, and turned the screen toward me. This is from the chapel last night, around 2 a.m. The video showed me, undeniably me. I was wearing a short, white, vaguely ridiculous dress that I'd never seen before, standing next to this man, Luca Russo, in what was clearly a Vegas wedding chapel. I was laughing, stumbling slightly, clinging to his arm like a particularly enthusiastic koala. Some Elvis impersonator, garishly dressed, was droning on about marriage and commitment, and then a video me was kissing Luca with gusto, while someone, presumably one of my friends, cheered in the background. No, that's not. I wouldn't. But it was clearly me. Drunk, deliriously happy, and completely oblivious to the magnitude of what I was doing. You were very enthusiastic about the whole thing, Luca said, his voice devoid of any amusement. Kept saying you'd always wanted a Vegas wedding, that this was incredibly romantic, that I was the most handsome man you'd ever met. I looked at the ring on my finger, the absurdly large ring that I'd apparently demanded while blackout drunk. This isn't real. I don't remember any of this. We can just get it annulled. It's not legal if I was too drunk to consent. Actually, Nevada law is quite permissive about drunk marriages. As long as you could stand and repeat the words, which you clearly could in the video, the marriage is legal and binding. He crossed his arms, his expression unreadable. But you're right, we could get it annulled. That's actually why I brought you here. We need to discuss terms. Terms? What terms? I just want to undo this mistake and go home. Not a mistake. At least, not entirely. His expression remained neutral, giving nothing away. I needed to get married quickly for business reasons. A legitimate marriage to someone outside my world. You were drunk, willing, and perfect for my purposes, so I took advantage of the opportunity. The casualness of his admission made my blood run cold. You're saying you deliberately married a drunk stranger for business reasons? That's not taking advantage of an opportunity, that's predatory. Call it what you want. The marriage is legal, and now I need you to stay married to me for the next 6 months. Publicly, convincingly. In exchange, I'll compensate you generously and ensure the annulment happens smoothly once I no longer need the arrangement. You're insane. I'm not staying married to you. I don't even know you. You know my name. You know I'm wealthy. That's all you need to know for now. He retrieved a folder from his briefcase, the leather gleaming expensively in the sunlight. This is the prenuptial agreement. I had my lawyers draw it up this morning while you were sleeping. It outlines the terms. You stay married to me for 6 months, make public appearances as my wife, convince anyone watching that we're a genuine couple. In return, you receive $25,000 a month, full access to a credit card for expenses, and a guaranteed annulment with no financial obligations on your part afterward. $25,000 a month. $150,000 for 6 months. More money than I make in 2 years of teaching. Why? Why do you need a fake wife? What kind of business requires a sham marriage? The kind that's none of your concern. Your job is to be my wife publicly. Ask no questions about my business, and collect your compensation. Simple, straightforward, mutually beneficial. Except I don't benefit. I get dragged into whatever sketchy business you're involved in, risk my reputation, lie to everyone I know, and essentially become a prostitute, being paid to pretend to be your wife. You're not prostituting yourself. We're not having sex. This is purely a business arrangement. He pushed the folder across the table. Read the contract. It's all spelled out clearly. No physical intimacy required or expected. Separate bedrooms. You're simply playing a role. I stared at the folder, then at him, then at the obscene rock on my finger. And if I refuse, if I just walk out of here, go to the nearest courthouse, and file for an annulment myself, then you'll spend the next several months dealing with lawyers, court dates, and my legal team making the process as difficult as possible. You'll also lose out on a significant amount of money that could change your life. Your choice. That's coercion. You're basically holding me hostage. I prefer to think of it as negotiation. You have something I need, legitimacy, a public face of normal marriage. I have something you need, money and, eventually, freedom from this situation. His dark eyes held mine, unwavering. 6 months, Zoe. That's all I'm asking. Play the role, take the money, and then we go our separate ways. Is that really so terrible compared to the alternative? I wanted to scream yes, it was terrible, that being forced into a fake marriage with a stranger was basically kidnapping. But the truth was more complicated, more insidious. I was a teacher drowning in student loans, living paycheck to paycheck, watching my friends buy houses and start families while I scraped by. $150,000 would change everything. Pay off my loans, give me savings, let me actually breathe financially. And what was the alternative? Fight this in court for months, spend money I didn't have on lawyers, and probably lose anyway since the marriage was technically legal. I need to think about this. Take your time. You have 24 hours to decide. He stood, clearly ending the conversation. Your clothes from last night are being cleaned. I've had appropriate attire brought in for you. They're in your room. Feel free to explore the house, order any food you want. Just don't leave the property until you've made your decision. So I am a prisoner. You're a guest who needs time to think clearly. There's a difference. He moved toward the door, then paused, turning back to face me. For what it's worth, Zoe, I'm not trying to ruin your life. I'm offering you an opportunity. Most people would kill for this kind of money for 6 months of pretending. Try to see it as the business arrangement it is, not a personal violation. After he left, I collapsed onto the sofa, staring at the ring on my finger. How had my life gone from teaching high school English to being the fake wife of a man who was clearly involved in something illegal? Because you don't need a sham marriage for legitimate business. You need it for covering up crimes, laundering money, gaining citizenship, all the things crime dramas had taught me. My phone, which the housekeeper had mentioned, was indeed charging on a side table. 14 missed calls from my friends, 37 texts, all variations of, "Where are you?" and "Are you okay?" and, increasingly panicked, "Call me now." I dialed Emma, my best friend, the bachelorette party honoree. "Zoe, oh my God. Where the hell have you been? We've been losing our minds. You disappeared from the club last night, and we couldn't find you anywhere." "I'm okay. This is gonna sound insane, but I think I got married last night. To a stranger. While blackout drunk." Silence. Then, "What?" "There's a ring on my finger, a marriage certificate apparently, and a very intense man claiming we got married at 2 a.m. I don't remember any of it." "Zoe, that's not funny." "I'm not joking. I woke up in his mansion, Emma. It's a literal mansion. And he's saying we're legally married, and he wants me to stay married to him for 6 months for business reasons. And he'll pay me $150,000. More silence. Then, "Okay, I'm coming to get you." "Where are you?" "I don't actually know. Somewhere in Vegas, big house overlooking the strip. He says I can't leave until I decide if I'm taking his deal." "That's kidnapping. Call the police." "And tell them what? That I got drunk, got married, and now my legal husband won't let me leave his house until I sign a contract? I don't think that's actually illegal. It should be." "Zoe, this is insane. You can't seriously be considering this." $150,000. That's my student loans paid off. That's savings. That's financial security I've never had. It's also 6 months of lying to everyone, being married to a stranger, getting involved in God knows what kind of illegal business. You're a teacher. You can't risk your career on something like this." She was right, of course. She was always right. This was insane, dangerous, potentially career-ending if anyone found out. But that ring on my finger was so beautiful, and the idea of being debt-free was so tempting. "I have 24 hours to decide. Can I call you back?" "Zoe, I know it's crazy, just let me think about it. I'll call you soon, I promise." I hung up before she could argue more and spent the rest of the day exploring my temporary prison. The mansion was as impressive as I'd initially thought. 6 bedrooms, home theater, wine cellar, pool, gym, the kind of wealth I'd only seen in movies. And in one of the guest rooms, I found an entire wardrobe of women's clothes in my exact size. Designer labels, expensive fabrics, everything from casual wear to evening gowns. Luca had clearly prepared for this, had planned to trap some drunk woman into marriage, and had the infrastructure ready. That should have terrified me. Instead, I found myself trying on a dress, looking at myself in the mirror, imagining what 6 months of living like this would feel like. That evening, Luca joined me for dinner, an elaborate meal prepared by a private chef, served in a dining room that could seat 20 but currently held only the two of us at opposite ends of a ridiculously long table. "This is absurd," I said, gesturing at the vast distance between us. "We're married, apparently. Can't we at least eat in the same zip code?" A slight smile crossed his face, the first real expression I'd seen from him. "Fair point." He moved to the seat across from me, close enough to have an actual conversation. "Have you made your decision? I have questions first. Starting with what kind of business requires a fake wife. The kind that involves family expectations and traditional values. My family is old-fashioned. They expect certain milestones by certain ages. Marriage is one of them. Without a wife, I'm not taken seriously in family business discussions. So this is about inheritance? Impressing your family? Something like that?" He cut into his steak with surgical precision. "The specific details aren't relevant. What matters is that I need a wife for 6 months, you need money, and we can both get what we want out of this arrangement. You said legitimate business, but people with legitimate businesses don't generally need sham marriages. Are you a criminal?" That's a loaded question with a complicated answer. He met my eyes, his gaze intense. "I operate in gray areas. Some of what I do is legal, some is questionable, some crosses lines. But Zoe, you're not involved in any of that. You're simply my wife in public. The business is separate. Can you promise I won't be implicated if something goes wrong? That I won't end up arrested or targeted because of your activities? I can promise that you'll be kept completely separate from operations. As far as anyone outside my inner circle knows, you're exactly what the story says. A schoolteacher who had a whirlwind romance with a businessman and got married impulsively in Vegas. That's the story. That's all anyone will ever know. What about my job? I have to be back at work in a week, teaching in California, not Vegas. You'll quit. I'll compensate you for lost wages, part of the agreement." He said it so casually, like my career was nothing more than a minor inconvenience. "You can't maintain both lives. Teacher by day, mob wife by night. It doesn't work." "Mob wife? So you are." "I didn't say that. But hypothetically, if I were involved in organized business, you couldn't exactly tell your principal you're married to me while also teaching high school. The background check alone would raise flags." My appetite vanished. "You want me to quit my job? The career I spent 4 years in college and 2 years in credentialing for? Just give it up for 6 months of playing pretend? I want you to take a sabbatical. Tell them it's for personal reasons, which is true. You got married. Need time to settle into your new life. After 6 months, you get divorced, cite irreconcilable differences, and return to teaching with $150,000 in the bank. Your career isn't ruined. It's just..." He paused. "Teachers don't get sabbaticals. I'd have to resign, and getting rehired isn't guaranteed. Then I'll increase the compensation. $200,000 for 6 months. Enough that even if you can't get your exact job back, you have time to find something else without financial pressure." He leaned forward, his dark eyes locking onto mine. "Zoe, I'm trying to be fair here to make this worth your while. But I need you to understand, this marriage is happening whether you agree to the terms or not. The only question is whether you benefit financially from it or fight it expensively in court. That's not fairness, that's manipulation. Call it what you want, but make a decision tonight. I need to know if you're in or if we're doing this the hard way." I pushed my plate away, too agitated to eat. "If I agree, and I'm not saying I am, what exactly does being your wife entail? You said no sex, separate bedrooms, but what about public appearances? What am I expected to do? Attend events with me? Family dinners, business functions, occasional social gatherings. Act affectionate but not overtly sexual. Hold my hand. Let me put my arm around you. Smile when people ask about our whirlwind romance. Essentially, sell the story that we fell madly in love and couldn't wait to get married. And in private? In private, we're roommates. Polite, cordial, but maintaining distance. You have your space, I have mine. We coordinate our public story but otherwise live separate lives within the same house. For 6 months. For 6 months. Then divorce settlement, and you never have to see me again. I stood, needing to pace. This is insane. Everything about this is insane. I don't even know you. I don't know what you're involved in, who your family is, what I'd be getting into. Then ask. Right now, before you decide, ask me anything you want to know. I stopped pacing, turned to face him. Are you dangerous? Will I be in danger because of you? I'm very dangerous, but not to you. You'll be protected, secured, kept safe from anything related to my business. That's non-negotiable. Have you killed people? That's not a question you want answered. Yes, it is. If I'm going to be your fake wife, I need to know what I'm dealing with. Have you killed people? He was quiet for a long moment, his expression hardening. Then, yes. In self-defense, in protection of my family, in situations where it was necessary. I'm not a serial killer, but I'm not a saint either. I do what needs to be done in my world. The admission should have sent me running. Instead, I found it oddly honest. At least he wasn't lying. Why me? You're clearly wealthy enough to find someone willing to do this. Why trap a drunk stranger into marriage? Because you were convenient, uncomplicated, and perfect for what I needed. Someone with no connections to my world, no knowledge of my business, no complications. A random drunk girl in Vegas who wanted a wedding was exactly what I was looking for. He stood, moving closer, his presence filling the space between us. And because you seemed genuine, even drunk, you were sweet, funny, enthusiastic. Those qualities are useful for selling a love story. So you took advantage of a drunk woman, and now you're trying to make it sound romantic. I took advantage of an opportunity. I'm not claiming it's romantic, just practical. He was close enough now that I could smell his cologne, expensive and subtle. Zoe, I need an answer. Are you doing this? Or am I calling my lawyers? I looked at him, this dangerous, complicated man who had trapped me in an impossible situation. Then I looked at the ring on my finger, thought about my student loans, my struggling bank account, my friends who were all moving forward in life while I was stuck. 250,000. I heard myself say, the words barely a whisper. That's my price. 250,000 for 6 months. And I wanted in writing that after the divorce, you'll provide a reference for any job I apply to. Say I was your personal assistant or something, so the gap in my resume doesn't look like unemployment. 250,000 is steep. You're asking me to quit my career, lie to everyone I know, and marry a man who just admitted to killing people. I think that's worth 250,000. He studied me for a moment, his dark eyes piercing. Then he nodded, a barely perceptible movement. Deal. I'll have the contract amended tonight. You'll sign tomorrow morning, and then we begin the performance. Just like that, I had agreed to an insane arrangement. And we just move forward. Just like that. Welcome to your new life, Mrs. Russo. The next morning, I signed the contract with shaking hands, 23 pages of legal jargon that basically said I was selling 6 months of my life to a stranger for $250,000. When it was done, Luca's lawyer, a stern woman named Patricia who looked like she'd seen everything, witnessed the signature and packed up the documents. Congratulations on your marriage, Patricia said drily. I've prepared the statement you'll give if anyone asks about the quick wedding. Review it, memorize it. The story needs to be consistent. The story was surprisingly detailed. We'd met 2 months ago at a charity event in Los Angeles. He'd been immediately taken with me, pursued me despite my initial hesitation, swept me off my feet with his charm and romantic gestures. The Vegas wedding was impulsive, yes, but felt right because we were so deeply in love. We were planning a bigger celebration for family and friends once we settled into married life. This is a novel, not a cover story, I said, reading through the pages. Do people actually believe stuff like this? They believe what they want to believe. Most people want to believe in whirlwind romances. They'll accept the story because it's appealing. Patricia closed her briefcase with a snap. Your job is to sell it convincingly. Can you do that? I'm a teacher. I act enthusiastic about semicolons and Shakespeare to teenagers who'd rather be on TikTok. I can fake enthusiasm for a fake marriage. Good. Because the first test is tonight. Luca's brother is having a family dinner. You'll be introduced as the new wife. These people are not stupid. They'll be looking for cracks in your story. Don't give them any. After Patricia left, I found Luca in his office. A room I hadn't been allowed to enter until now. It was exactly what I'd expected. Dark wood, leather furniture, multiple computer screens, and an air of serious business being conducted. Your family doesn't know, do they? About the arrangement? I asked from the doorway. They know I got married. They don't know the circumstances or the terms. As far as they're concerned, you're exactly what the story says. A woman I fell in love with and married impulsively. What if they don't believe it? What if they think I'm some gold digger or con artist? Then I'll defend you, convince them otherwise. That's part of the arrangement. I make this believable to my family and business associates. You just have to show up and play along. What are they like? What like your family? He leaned back in his chair, considering. My brother, Marco, is suspicious of everything and everyone. He'll interrogate you, try to find inconsistencies. My sister, Gianna, is a romantic. She'll want details about our love story. We'll probably cry at how beautiful it is. My mother is traditional Italian. She'll judge you on your cooking, suit yourself to our family, Zoe. Luca paused, a flicker of something unreadable crossing his features. My father. He's the reason I needed to rush into this charade. He's got this antiquated notion that bachelors in leadership positions are ticking time bombs. Unstable, irresponsible. He needed to see a ring on my finger and a wife on my arm before he'd even consider handing over the reins to certain key business operations. So, yeah, this whole thing boils down to a twisted promotion. A criminal promotion, if you will. He caught my eye, a hint of challenge in his gaze. I prefer to frame it as a leadership transition, but yes, essentially it's about power. He turned away, the movement sharp and decisive. Now, about tonight. He strode towards a walk-in closet nestled within the opulent confines of his office. The door whispered shut behind him, then reappeared moments later, carefully holding a garment bag. I had this made for you, tailored specifically. My mother, she's old-fashioned when it comes to these things. Wives, in her world, are walking, talking billboards for the family. They need to dress the part, represent us well. He unzipped the bag, revealing a dress that managed to be both demure and breathtakingly alluring. Deep green silk shimmered in the light, the cut elegant and timeless. The kind of dress that whispered wealth, not screamed it. And these? He produced a velvet box, snapping it open to reveal jewelry that made my breath catch in my throat. Emerald earrings and a necklace. The real deal, not some cheap imitation. Probably worth more than my beat-up Corolla. I stared at the glittering stones, suddenly feeling suffocated. I'm supposed to wear someone else's fortune around my neck? Luca's expression hardened. You're supposed to wear your husband's gift to his wife. That's how my family perceives it. Rejecting them would be a deliberate insult. It'd send a signal we can't afford to send. This is insane, I whispered, the reality of my situation crashing down on me. All of this, I should have run yesterday. He stepped closer, his presence suddenly overwhelming. But you didn't. You took the deal, Zoe. Now you have to play the hand you were dealt. He gently adjusted the necklace within its box, his fingers brushing against mine. Listen to me. Tonight, my family will be scrutinizing every detail. How we interact, how at ease you seem, whether this marriage feels genuine. If they even suspect it's a sham, it unravels everything. So, for one night, you need to bury the fact that this is an arrangement. You need to convince them, and maybe yourself, that you actually are my wife. Can you pull that off? I can try, I offered weakly. His dark eyes bored into mine. Trying isn't good enough. You need to succeed. He stepped even closer, his voice dropping to a low, urgent murmur. I'm not trying to scare you, Zoe, but I am trying to prepare you. My family isn't like the families you read about in books. They're complicated, dangerous, and acutely perceptive. Failing to convince them isn't just embarrassing. It's potentially hazardous for both of us. What happens if they don't believe me? If I mess up the story? The question tumbled out before I could stop it, fueled by a sudden, icy dread. Then we deal with the consequences. His jaw tightened. Consequences I'd rather not elaborate on. Just don't mess up. Stick to the script, follow my lead, and we'll get through this unscathed. That evening, as I prepared in my designated bedroom, a space that dwarfed my entire apartment back home, I stood before the mirror, rehearsing the carefully crafted narrative. We met at a charity event. He pursued me relentlessly. We fell madly in love. The Vegas wedding was impulsive, fueled by passion, but felt undeniably right. I'm so happy. He's amazing. This is real. The lies felt clunky, foreign on my tongue. But the dress was perfect. The jewelry sparkled, catching the light with every movement. And when I gazed at my reflection, I saw a woman who could convincingly portray the part of a mob wife. Polished, elegant, and undeniably expensive. You look beautiful. Luca's voice, resonating from the doorway, startled me. He changed, too, into a suit that probably cost more than my annual salary, charcoal gray, flawlessly tailored, transforming him into the very image of a powerful, ruthless businessman. Thank you, I managed, my voice a little breathless. You look intimidating. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. Good, that's the intention. He crossed the room, producing another small box. One more prop for tonight. Inside, nestled on black velvet, was a wedding band. Simple platinum, elegant, clearly designed to complement my engagement ring. We didn't exchange rings at the chapel, I said. My brow furrowed as he took my hand, sliding the ring onto my finger. You were too drunk to notice, he said dryly. We're skipping that part of the story. Consider this me correcting the oversight. His hands were surprisingly warm, his touch gentle. There. Now you look properly married. I stared at the ring, the weight of it heavy on my finger. I feel like I'm wearing a costume, playing dress-up in someone else's life. That's precisely what you're doing, he said, his voice devoid of emotion. Just remember, for the next 6 months, this isn't a costume. This is your life. The sooner you accept that, the smoother this charade will be. The drive to his parents' estate unfolded in near silence, the tension ratcheting up with each mile. As we turned onto a long, winding driveway, finally pulling up to a sprawling estate that made Luca's mansion look almost modest, my anxiety spiked. This asterisk is where your parents live? This is where my father conducts business, he clarified, his gaze sweeping over the imposing facade. They have a smaller, more livable house for actual living. This is for entertaining, meetings, family gatherings. He rounded the car, offering me his hand. His touch on my lower back as he helped me out felt calculated. A gesture designed for an audience, affectionate in appearance, controlling in reality. Remember the story, Zoe. Follow my lead. Don't volunteer information they don't explicitly ask for. And, Zoe, smile. You're supposed to be madly in love with me, remember? I pasted on a smile, the corners of my mouth feeling stiff and unnatural as we approached the imposing front door. How's this? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Terrifying? He tilted his head, studying my expression. Try softer, more genuine. Think about something that genuinely makes you happy. I closed my eyes for a moment, picturing the $250,000 I was earning, the financial freedom it represented. The smile that bloomed on my face felt more natural, more authentic. Better, he murmured. Keep that one ready. The door swung open, and suddenly, we were enveloped by a throng of people. The Russo family. Luca's mother surged forward immediately, A small but formidable woman with piercing eyes and an embrace that felt more like an assessment than a genuine greeting. "So, this is the girl who stole my son's heart so quickly," she declared in heavily accented English, pulling back to scrutinize my face. "We didn't even have a chance to meet her before the wedding. Luca showed us pictures, but you're even prettier in person. I'm Carmela, and you must call me Mama. We're family now." "Thank you, Mama," I replied, the word feeling strange and unfamiliar on my tongue. "It's wonderful to meet you." She smiled, a hint of approval softening her features. "Come inside. Everyone is waiting to meet you." She linked her arm through mine, deftly separating me from Luca with practiced efficiency. "You must tell me everything. How did you meet? When did you know he was the one? Was the wedding beautiful?" As we stepped into the foyer, Luca's sister, Gianna, intercepted us. Younger than Luca, perhaps in her late 20s, she possessed his same dark features, but imbued with a warmer, more approachable expression. "Mama, don't interrogate her the moment she walks in. Let the poor girl breathe." She enveloped me in a warm hug. "I'm Gianna. Welcome to the family, though I have to say, I'm a little hurt my big brother got married without inviting his favorite sister." "It was very impulsive," I said, sticking to the agreed-upon script. "We were in Vegas for my best friend's bachelorette party, and Luca surprised me by flying in to join me. One thing led to another, and we just couldn't wait. Felt right." "How romantic." Gianna clutched her chest dramatically. "Mama, see? True love doesn't wait for proper planning and guest lists. It just happens." "True love should still involve family," Carmela countered firmly, though she was smiling. "But what's done is done. Come, meet everyone else." The dining room was already filled with people, at least 15 or 20, all of them turning to stare as we entered. Luca materialized at my side instantly, his hand finding mine, fingers intertwining in a gesture that appeared natural but felt calculated. "Everyone, this is Zoe, my wife." His voice carried a note of authority, daring anyone to challenge or question. "Zoe, this is everyone." The introductions blurred together: brothers, cousins, uncles, business associates, all of them scrutinizing me with varying degrees of curiosity, suspicion, and outright assessment. I smiled until my face ached, repeated the cover story so many times it began to feel almost true, and let Luca guide me through the treacherous social minefield. His brother, Marco, was exactly as Luca had described him. Suspicious, calculating, firing off questions designed to trip me up. "So, you're a teacher," he said during cocktails, his tone making it sound like an accusation. "High school English. That's quite different from our family's business interests. How did you even end up at a charity event where Luca was present? Those aren't usually frequented by public school teachers." "My friend Emma works in event planning. She had an extra ticket and invited me along," I replied, the lie flowing smoothly, practiced and rehearsed. "I almost didn't go, but Emma convinced me I needed to get out more, and she was right. That night changed my life." "Convenient," Marco said, his skepticism palpable. "My brother attends one charity event, something he rarely does, and happens to meet the woman he'll marry 2 months later." "Quite the coincidence," I agreed, forcing another smile. "Some people call it fate," Luca interjected smoothly, sliding his arm around my waist, pulling me closer. "I call it the best decision I never planned to make." Zoe walked into that event, and I couldn't take my eyes off her. "Sometimes you just know." "You've never been this sometimes you just know type, Luca," Marco countered, his gaze unwavering. "You're calculated, strategic. This whole whirlwind romance feels out of character." "Maybe I was tired of being calculated," Luca said, a dangerous edge creeping into his voice. "Maybe I wanted something spontaneous for once in my life." "Is that so hard to believe, Marco? That I could fall in love like a normal person?" "Yes, actually, it is." The tense silence that followed was broken by the arrival of Luca's father. A man in his late 70s, he commanded attention without uttering a single word. The room went quiet, even Marco falling silent. The patriarch had arrived. "So, this is the girl," he said in heavily accented English, approaching us with slow, deliberate steps. "The one who convinced my son to finally settle down. Let me look at you." He circled me slowly, his eyes sharp and assessing, as if I were livestock being evaluated for purchase. I held my ground, maintaining my smile, determined not to betray how intimidated I felt. "You're young," he said finally, his gaze lingering on my face. "Younger than I expected. What are you, 25? 27? 27, sir," I corrected, my voice steady despite the tremor that ran through me. "Sir, I like that. Respectful." He turned to Luca, his expression unreadable. "She's pretty, seems smart enough. But can she handle this family? Can she handle you?" "She can handle me just fine, Papa," Luca replied, his hand on my waist tightening slightly. A subtle signal I'd learned meant play along. Better than fine, actually. She keeps me grounded. Reminds me there's more to life than business. The patriarch's gaze returned to me, piercing and unwavering. "What we need to know is if she understands what she's married into. This isn't a normal family, girl. We have expectations, traditions, ways of doing things. Can you adapt? Can you fit in? Or are you going to cause problems?" This wasn't in the script. Luca had warned me his father was traditional, but not that he'd be this direct, this challenging. I felt the weight of every gaze in the room, waiting, anticipating my response. "I'm a quick learner, sir," I said, meeting the old man's eyes directly. "And I love your son. That means I'll do whatever it takes to be part of this family, to support him, to fit in. I know I'm not what you expected. I know this marriage was fast and unconventional, but I'm committed to Luca, to this family, to making this work. That's all I can promise." The patriarch studied me for what felt like an eternity, his expression inscrutable. Then, surprisingly, a smile touched his lips. "She's got spine. I like that. Too many women these days are weak. Afraid. You look afraid, but you're standing your ground anyway. That's good." He clapped Luca on the shoulder. "You did well, son. Keep her." As he walked away, I felt Luca's entire body relax slightly. "You just passed the hardest test," he murmured in my ear, his voice laced with relief. "My father's approval is almost impossible to get. You impressed him." I was terrified, I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. "I know." He knew too. "But you didn't back down. That's what he respects." Dinner was an elaborate affair, course after course of rich Italian food. Wine flowing freely, conversation weaving between English and Italian in a way that often left me lost and disoriented. But Luca remained close, translating when necessary, steering the conversation away from potentially dangerous topics, playing the attentive new husband so convincingly I almost began to believe it myself. "You two are sweet together," Gianna observed during dessert, her eyes sparkling with amusement. "The way he looks at you, Zoe. I've never seen my brother look at anyone like that." Because he's acting, I wanted to retort. Asterisk, this is all a performance. Asterisk, but instead, I simply smiled and squeezed Luca's hand. "I'm a lucky woman." "We're both lucky," Luca corrected, bringing my hand to his lips and kissing it gently. The gesture was pure theater, but it elicited sighs from several of the women at the table. After dinner, Carmela cornered me in the powder room, her expression suddenly serious. "I need to tell you something, woman to woman. My son is complicated, difficult. His business is dangerous, though we don't speak of it directly. You're young, sweet, probably unprepared for what this life really means." She paused, her eyes searching mine. "I know it won't be easy. You don't know anything yet, but you will learn." She touched my cheek gently, her gaze softening. "I see how you look at him. Maybe you love him, maybe you're still figuring it out. But, Zoe, if you're going to be part of this family, you need to be strong. The women in our world, we have to be stronger than the men. We have to protect them from themselves, raise children in chaos, and smile through it all. Can you do that?" "I can try," I offered, the words feeling inadequate even to my own ears. "Trying isn't good enough. You need to commit completely, or you need to leave now before it's too late, before you're in too deep. Her eyes were kind but unflinching. I like you, Zoe. I don't want to see you destroyed by this world. So decide now, are you all in? Or are you running? The irony of her words, knowing this was already a prearranged deal with a predetermined expiration date, made me want to both laugh and cry simultaneously. I'm all in, I declared, my voice firm. I chose Luca, knowing his life was complicated. I'm not running. Good. Then we'll teach you what you need to know. How to be a Russo wife, how to survive this family. She hugged me tightly, the gesture surprisingly comforting. Welcome, daughter. You're one of us now. The drive home was silent, both of us exhausted from the relentless performance. When we finally reached the mansion, I kicked off the ridiculously expensive heels and collapsed onto the plush sofa in the sitting room. That was the most stressful dinner of my life, I exclaimed, running a hand through my hair. And I once had dinner with my ex-boyfriend's parents who spent 2 hours explaining why I wasn't good enough for their son. Luca loosened his tie, crossed to the bar, poured 2 generous glasses of whiskey, and handed me one. You did well, Zoe. Better than well. You convinced them. Even Marco seemed to buy it by the end. Your mother cornered me in the bathroom, told me I need to be strong, that this family will destroy me if I'm not careful. I recounted, swirling the amber liquid in my glass. It was very ominous and very sweet simultaneously. That's my mother, brutally honest, wrapped in maternal concern. He sat beside me, close but not quite touching. She likes you. That's important. If she'd hated you, the next 6 months would have been hell. So now what? I've met the family, passed the tests. What happens next? I asked, taking a long sip of the whiskey, the burn surprisingly welcome. Now we settle into a routine. You'll attend more family functions, some business events. We'll be seen together publicly, selling the story to everyone outside the family. And in between, he shrugged. You'll live here, do whatever you want with your time, and collect your payments. Sounds boring. 6 months of playing dress-up and attending dinners. I echoed, a hint of cynicism creeping into my voice. You could take up a hobby, learn Italian, read all those books you've been meaning to read. This is essentially a paid vacation with occasional performance requirements. He swirled his whiskey, his expression unreadable. Most people would consider that a good deal. Most people aren't living a complete lie to people who could probably kill them if they found out the truth, I pointed out, my voice sharper than intended. No one's killing you, Zoe, he retorted, his tone dismissive. Stop being dramatic. Your father literally said I need to understand what I married into. Your mother warned me this world destroys people. Your brother thinks I'm a con artist. Forgive me for being a little dramatic about my safety. Fair point, he conceded, finishing his whiskey in one gulp. But, for what it's worth, you're under my protection now. That means something in my world. No one touches you, no one threatens you. You're safer now than you've ever been. Because I'm your fake wife? I challenged, raising an eyebrow. Because you're my wife, he corrected, his gaze unwavering. Fake or not, the label provides protection, regardless of authenticity. He stood, offering me his hand. Come on, I want to show you something. He led me through the sprawling house, to a part one hadn't yet explored, a library that was breathtaking in its grandeur. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves lined the walls, filled with leather-bound volumes. Comfortable leather furniture invited hours of quiet contemplation. I had this put together for you, Luca said, gesturing to a section of newer-looking books. You mentioned you were an English teacher. I figured you'd appreciate a decent collection of literature. He then opened a laptop on the desk. And this is yours, for personal use. Email your friends, stay in touch with your family, do whatever you want. Just don't mention anything about our arrangement or my business. The thoughtfulness of the gesture surprised me. You didn't have to do this, I said, my voice softening. I need you to be comfortable here, he explained, his gaze direct and unwavering. Comfortable people are convincing people. If you're miserable, it shows. If you're content, it sells the story better. He moved towards the door, pausing in the threshold. Use this space however you want. It's yours now, along with everything else in this house. With that, he turned and disappeared down the hallway, leaving me alone in the silent library. After he left, I sat in one of the leather armchairs, surrounded by books, and tried to process the surreal reality of my new life. Just a week ago, I was a teacher, living paycheck to paycheck in a cramped apartment. Now I was a mob wife living in a mansion wearing jewelry worth more than my car, playing a role in someone else's incredibly complicated life. And I had 5 months and 3 weeks left to play it. Over the next few weeks, I settled into a routine that was surreal in its normalcy. Mornings were spent in the library reading or emailing my friends carefully curated, heavily edited versions of my new life. Afternoons were dedicated to swimming in the indoor pool, working out in the gym, or exploring the affluent neighborhood with Marco, one of Luca's security team, assigned to be my shadow whenever Luca was working. Am I a prisoner or a wife? I asked Marco one afternoon when he insisted on accompanying me to a coffee shop 3 blocks away. You're protected. Boss's orders. Anywhere you go, I go. He was about 30, built like a tank, and surprisingly good company despite his intimidating appearance. What if I wanted to go shopping? See a movie? Have lunch with a friend? I pressed, testing the boundaries of my gilded cage. Then I'd come with you, discreetly. You wouldn't even know I was there. Most of the time. That's creepy, I said, wrinkling my nose. That's protection. This isn't a normal marriage, but the threats are real. People knowing you're Luca's wife makes you a target. Kidnapping, blackmail, worse. These are real risks. Boss isn't being paranoid, he's being smart. His words served as a stark reminder that this world, Luca's world, came with dangers I couldn't fully comprehend. The expensive clothes and the opulent mansion were one thing. The constant need for security was another entirely. Luca himself was surprisingly considerate. We maintained separate bedrooms, ate breakfast together most mornings, and he'd check in throughout the day via text. In public, at the weekly family dinners, and at the business functions I was required to attend, he played the devoted husband flawlessly, affectionate without being possessive, attentive without being smothering. It was all performance, but it was good performance. You're getting better at this, he commented one evening after we'd attended a particularly tedious charity gala. You barely hesitated when that woman asked about our honeymoon plans. Your answer was immediate and convincing. I'm an English teacher, I shrugged. I tell stories about dead authors to teenagers who don't care. This is just a different kind of storytelling. Is that all this is to you, Zoe? A story? What else would it be? I challenged, meeting his gaze. You paid me to play a role. I'm playing it. That's the arrangement. I slipped off the elegant heels I'd been wearing all evening, my feet aching. Why? Did you expect me to actually fall for you? Develop real feelings? Because you're so charming and generous? I scoffed. He sighed, a hint of weariness in his eyes. No, but I expected some level of connection. We're living together, spending a significant amount of time together. Most people would at least develop a friendship. Most people aren't paying each other for a fake marriage, I retorted, my voice sharper than I intended. I stood, suddenly tired of the conversation. Good night, Luca. Thank you for a lovely evening of lies and performance. I left him standing in the foyer, something akin to hurt, or perhaps disappointment, flickering across his face. But that was his problem, not mine. I was here for 6 months and $250,000, not friendship, not connection, and definitely not feelings. 3 months into the arrangement, something shifted. I couldn't pinpoint exactly when it happened, but I started noticing things about Luca I'd overlooked before. The way he always made sure my coffee was perfect in the morning, the random texts he'd send during the day just to check in, with no business agenda attached, the small gifts that would inexplicably appear in my room, the books he thought I'd like, flowers because he'd noticed I'd admired them at a shop. You're being weird, I told him one morning over breakfast, wrinkling my nose. Attentive. More than the arrangement requires. Am I not allowed to be considerate to the person living in my house? He countered. a hint of amusement in his voice. You're allowed. It's just different. We're supposed to be business partners, not actual friends. Can't we be both? He asked, setting down his newspaper, giving me his full attention. Zoe, we have 3 more months together. Seems wasteful to spend them maintaining this cold distance. Why not make it pleasant? Because pleasant leads to complicated. Complicated makes the ending harder. Or maybe pleasant just makes the present more bearable, he suggested, his gaze unwavering. He reached across the table, his hand covering mine. I'm not asking you to fall in love with me, Zoe. Just to stop treating me like I'm only a paycheck. His hand was warm, strong, and I realized I'd stopped pulling away from his casual touches somewhere in the past 3 months. I'd grown used to him, comfortable, maybe even started to like him. Fine, I conceded, a hint of reluctance in my voice. We can be friends, but just friends. When this is over, in 3 months we go our separate ways as planned. As planned, he agreed, but something in his expression suggested he wasn't entirely convinced that's how this would end. The burgeoning friendship, if that's what it was, made the next few weeks undeniably easier. We'd watch movies together in the evenings, debate books we'd both read, cook dinner together on nights when the chef was off. It felt dangerously close to a real relationship which should have terrified me, but instead, it felt nice. Tell me about before, I said one evening. We were in the library, both ostensibly reading, but not really focusing on the words, just existing comfortably in the same space. Before all this, what was your life like? Busy, lonely, focused entirely on business and family obligations. He closed his book, his gaze distant. I was being groomed to take over operations from my father. That meant learning everything about the business, legal and illegal. It meant sacrificing personal wants for family needs. Romance wasn't part of the plan. Relationships were distractions. So you've never been in love? I asked, curiosity piqued. I thought I was once, he admitted, a hint of sadness in his voice. College girlfriend before I was fully immersed in the family business. But she couldn't handle what my life became. Left before things got too serious. He studied me carefully, his eyes searching mine. What about you? Ever been in love? Once, I replied, the memory still carrying a faint sting. He was another teacher. We dated for 2 years, talked about marriage, the whole future planned out. Then he got offered a job in New York and I was going to stay in California. We tried long distance for about 3 months before he admitted he'd met someone else. I shrugged, feigning nonchalance. I thought I'd never trust anyone again after that. And here I am in a fake marriage with a criminal. Life is funny. I'm not just a criminal, he protested, a playful glint in his eyes. No, I conceded, smiling. You're also a really good cook, and you have excellent taste in books. A multifaceted criminal. He threw a pillow at me, and I threw it back, and suddenly we were laughing, genuinely laughing like actual friends instead of business partners. It was the most authentic moment we'd shared since this whole charade had started. The shift in our dynamic didn't go unnoticed by Luca's family. At the next family dinner, Gianna pulled me aside, her eyes sparkling with a knowing smile. So you and my brother, you're actually falling for each other, aren't you? Are you two what? No, we get along. That's all. Zoe. Bless her heart. Gianna's expression softened, a knowing smile playing on her lips. Darling, I've known Luca my entire life. I have never seen him look at someone the way he looks at you. And you? You practically light up like a Christmas tree when he walks into a room. That's not just getting along. That's something more. Don't you think? I forced a laugh, hoping I sounded convincing. You're imagining things. This marriage is still brand new. We're still figuring each other out. Gianna simply raised an eyebrow. Keep telling yourself that, sweetie. But I know what I see. She leaned in and gave me a warm hug. And for what it's worth, I'm happy about it. You're good for him, Zoe. You make him more human, less robot businessman. The conversation gnawed at me far more than it should have because, deep down, Gianna was right. I did light up when Luca entered a room. I did find myself looking forward to our evenings together, to our increasingly easy and comfortable conversations. And that was the most dangerous thing of all. In 2.5 months, this would end. He'd pay me, we'd divorce, and I'd go back to my real life. Getting attached was definitely not part of the meticulously laid plan. I consciously tried to pull back, to reestablish some much-needed distance. But Luca, infuriatingly, seemed determined to do the exact opposite. He started coming home earlier, lingering, actually spending time with me. He initiated conversations about everything and anything, from the frustrating nuances of California politics to our favorite old movies. It felt like he was actively pursuing me, which made absolutely no sense, given the nature of our arrangement. "Why are you doing this?" I finally blurted out one evening, the question hanging heavy in the air between us. All this attention, all this time together, acting like we're actually in a relationship. Our contract certainly doesn't require this level of commitment. He set down his wine glass, the clink unusually loud in the otherwise quiet room. "Maybe I'm tired of pretending we're just business partners when we're clearly more than that." He paused, searching my eyes. "Zoe, somewhere in the past 3 months you became my friend. Possibly my best friend. The person I want to talk to about my day, share meals with, just exist around. That's not part of any contract. That's just what happened." "Friendship," I echoed, the word tasting like ash in my mouth, "has an expiration date. 2.5 months from now we're done. Unless—" The suggestion hung in the air between us, thick and heavy. "Unless, what are you saying?" "I'm saying," he said, his voice low and almost hesitant, "maybe we don't get divorced. Maybe we make this real. Continue what we started." I stared at him, incredulous. "You paid me to marry you, Luca. That's not exactly a solid foundation for a real relationship." "No," he conceded. "But the 3 months we've spent actually getting to know each other, that could be." He reached across the table, his fingers brushing against mine. "Zoe, I didn't expect this. I didn't plan for it. But I've developed feelings for you. Real feelings. And I think maybe you have too." He was right. And that was the terrifying part. Somewhere between the fake smiles and the carefully performed affection, I'd started actually caring about him, looking forward to seeing him, missing him when he was gone too long, exhibiting all the telltale signs of feelings I hadn't authorized myself to have. "This is a terrible idea," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "We're terrible together. I'm a teacher. You're a criminal. I believe in rules and laws. You break them professionally. We make no sense." He smiled, a slow, genuine smile that reached his eyes and made my heart ache. "We make perfect sense. Opposites attract, Zoe. They balance each other out. They make each other better. You've made me better. Made me question things I never questioned before. Made me want to be more than just my father's successor." He stood and walked around the table, stopping in front of me. He cupped my face in his hands. "Luca, just think about it. That's all I'm asking. Think about whether ending this is really what you want. Or if maybe, just maybe, we've stumbled into something worth keeping." He left me alone with that impossible suggestion, and I spent the next several days wrestling with the feelings I'd tried so desperately to suppress. The problem was further complicated by the fact that his world kept intruding into our carefully constructed bubble. There were nights he came home late, blood on his shirt, a darkness in his eyes that suggested he'd done things I didn't want to know about. Those nights served as stark reminders of what he really was. Not my friend, not my maybe boyfriend, but a criminal, deeply involved in operations I couldn't possibly condone. "Where were you tonight?" I asked one of those nights, finding him in his study at 2 a.m., a glass of whiskey in hand, looking haunted. "Handling business. Nothing you need to worry about." That's not an answer. And the blood on your sleeve suggests it was violent business. He looked down at his shirt, as if he hadn't even noticed it. "A negotiation went wrong. I had to remind someone why they shouldn't cross me. It's handled now." "You hurt someone." "I did what was necessary to protect my family's interests." That's my job, Zoe. That's what I do. And I'm supposed to just accept that? Love someone who hurts people. I'm not asking you to love me, he said, his voice suddenly hard. I'm asking you to understand me. This is my world. I can't change that, but I can try to keep it separate from you, from us. There is no us, Luca. There's an arrangement that's expiring in 2 months. That's all. I left him there, seething with anger and confusion, and hating, with every fiber of my being, that my feelings were achingly, undeniably real, while his life remained impossibly other. The next morning, everything changed. I woke up to find Luca already dressed, packed bags by the door, his expression etched with a seriousness I'd never seen before. We need to leave. Now. No questions. Just trust me. Fear, cold and sharp, spiked through me. What's happening? Someone from a rival family knows about you. About us. They're planning to use you to get to me. It's not safe here anymore. Use me? What does that mean? How? Kidnapping, most likely. They think you're my actual wife. That I love you. He hesitated, a flicker of something unreadable in his eyes. They're not wrong about the second part, and they don't need to be right about the first part to make you a target. He grabbed my arm, urgency lacing his voice. We have a safe house about 3 hours from here. We'll stay there until this threat is neutralized. But we need to leave now. Luca, I'm not going anywhere until you explain what's happening. Who's threatening me? Why now? Because I made a business decision that upset some dangerous people. They can't attack me directly without starting a war. But you're vulnerable. Hurting you hurts me. That's leverage they plan to use. So, this is my fault? For being married to you? He sighed, running a hand through his already disheveled hair. This is the reality of my world, Zoe. I tried to keep you separate from it. Tried to protect you. But my enemies don't care about separation. They care about weakness. And you've become mine. The admission that I was his weakness should have felt romantic. Instead, it felt terrifying. I grabbed my phone and threw some clothes into a bag, my hands shaking. I followed him to the car, where Marco was already waiting, his face grim. The safe house turned out to be a remote cabin high in the mountains. Isolated, well-secured, and completely cut off from the world. I knew, with a chilling certainty, that for the next several days, we would be trapped there together while Luca coordinated with his people to handle the threat. This is what our life would be like, isn't it? I said on the second day. We were sitting on the porch, surrounded by a dense forest, armed guards patrolling the perimeter. If we stay together, running from threats, hiding constantly, looking over our shoulders, that's not a life. That's survival. It's temporary, he said, reaching for my hand. Once the situation is handled, we go back to normal. Your normal is still abnormal, Luca. Even on quiet days, you're involved in illegal operations. People get hurt. Laws get broken. I can't build a life on that foundation. He was silent for a long moment, his gaze fixed on the distant mountains. Then what do you want, Zoe? You want me to walk away from my family? Abandon my responsibilities? Become someone else entirely? I want you to be someone who doesn't make me choose between loving you and respecting myself. The words hung between us, raw and honest and impossibly painful. I can't be that person, Luca said finally, his voice heavy with regret. This is who I am. What I am. I've tried to be better for you. Tried to separate you from the worst of it. But I can't change my fundamental nature. This life, this business, it's not something I can just walk away from. I know, I said softly. That's why this has to end. On the fourth day, Luca's people eliminated the threat. They killed the men who'd been planning to take me and sent a clear, unmistakable message to the rival family. Attempting it again would mean war. We returned to the mansion, but everything felt different now. The comfortable friendship we'd built was tainted by reality. His reality which I simply couldn't accept. 2 months left, I said that evening, the words falling flat in the cavernous living room. Let's just get through them, professionally. No more pretending this could be something real. His expression darkened. Is that really what you want? To throw away what we've built? We haven't built anything real, Luca. We've built a fantasy inside a bubble that was always going to pop. Now it has. We move forward with the original plan. Divorce, payment, separate lives. He looked like I'd physically struck him. Fine, if that's what you want. We'll maintain the public performance for appearances. But privately, we're done. Until the contract expires. Business partners. I agreed. Even though it felt like tearing out my own heart. The next 2 months were torture. We performed perfectly in public. Affectionate, happy. The picture of newlywed bliss. But at home, we were strangers. Polite, distant, carefully avoiding any real conversation or connection. His family noticed. Are you two fighting? Gianna asked during one strained family dinner. You seem off. We're fine. I lied, forcing a smile. Just adjusting to married life. It's not always easy. The lie felt hollow, but she seemed to accept it. In the final week of our arrangement, Luca called me to his study. The contract expires in 3 days. I have your final payment ready. But before we proceed with the divorce, I need to ask one more time. Are you sure this is what you want? I'm sure. This arrangement was always temporary. It's time to end it. Even though you have feelings for me. Especially because I have feelings for you. Staying would mean accepting your world, your choices, your life. I can't do that. He nodded slowly, his face tight with a pain I mirrored. He pulled out an envelope and slid it across the desk. Then this is goodbye. $150,000 in payments plus the final $100,000. Everything as contracted. He pushed the divorce papers towards me. Sign these. I'll file them tomorrow. By next week, you'll be free. I signed with shaking hands. Thank you for keeping your word. For treating me well despite the circumstances. For making this bearable. I managed a watery smile. Thank you for 3 months of feeling less alone. Even if it wasn't real. It was real, he said softly. That's the problem. It was too real. I left his study, went to my room and started packing. Tomorrow I'd leave this mansion, this life, this impossible man. I'd take my money, return to California, rebuild my teaching career, and try to forget any of this had ever happened. Except I knew I'd never forget. Not the money or the mansion or the performance, but him. The man behind the criminal. The person I'd almost loved. I didn't leave the next morning. Or the morning after that. Because the night before I was supposed to walk away, everything fell apart. I was packing the last of my things when I heard shouting downstairs. Luca's voice, angry and urgent, speaking rapid-fire Italian. Then, gunshots. Actual gunshots inside the house. I froze, my heart pounding against my ribs, trying to decide between hiding and running. Before I could choose, my bedroom door burst open. Marco, bleeding from a shoulder wound, grabbed my arm. We need to go. Now, they're inside. Who's inside? What's happening? The Castellano family. They're making a move, trying to take out the boss while his defenses are down. You need to come with me. He pulled me toward the door, but more gunfire echoed from the hallway. We can't go that way. Window. Fire escape. Move. We crashed through the window onto the fire escape, glass shattering around us. Marco was bleeding heavily, but kept moving, pushing me ahead of him down the metal stairs. Behind us, I could hear men shouting, more gunfire, utter chaos. Where's Luca? Is he okay? Boss is handling it. My job is getting you out. That's what he'd want. We hit the ground running. Marco pushing me toward a car parked in the alley. He shoved me into the passenger seat, got behind the wheel despite his injury, and peeled out just as several men appeared in the alley behind us. Weapons raised. Marco, you're bleeding badly. We need to get you to a hospital. Can't. They'll track us there. I know a place. Just need to stay conscious long enough to get us there. He barely made it. We arrived at what looked like an abandoned warehouse, and Marco managed to get us inside before collapsing against a pile of dusty crates. I used my phone to call Luca. It rang and rang before going to voicemail. Luca, I don't know if you're okay, but Marco got me out. We're at some warehouse. He's hurt badly, and I don't know what to do. Please, if you get this, call me back. I tried to stanch Marco's bleeding with torn fabric from my shirt, but I had no medical training. He was pale, breathing shallow, clearly going into shock. Stay with me, Marco. Don't you dare die. Luca needs you. I need you. He coughed, his eyes fluttering open. Tell boss I did my job. Got you out. You can tell him yourself, when he gets here. His grip on my hand tightened. Stay awake. Damn it. He didn't. His eyes closed, and his breathing became shallow and irregular. I was alone, in an abandoned warehouse with an unconscious security guard. No idea if Luca was alive, and no way to know if we were safe or if the Castellano family was still hunting us. I called 911, gave them the address, and stayed on the line until I heard sirens in the distance. Let them arrest me if they had to. Marco needed medical attention more than I needed to avoid questions. The paramedics arrived first, followed quickly by police. They took Marco away on a stretcher while officers separated me, firing questions at me that I barely understood through my shock. Ma'am, can you tell us what happened? Who shot this man? I don't know. We were attacked. He was protecting me. That's all I know. Attacked where? Who are you? What's your relationship to the victim? My name is Zoe Mitchell. Russo. Zoe Russo. He works for my husband. We were attacked at my home. The officers exchanged knowing looks. Russo? As in, Luca Russo? Yes, please. I need to know if my husband is okay. There was an attack, gunfire. I don't know what happened after Marco got me out. Ma'am, we're going to need you to come to the station, answer some questions about your husband's activities, and this attack. They put me in the back of a police car, and I realized with a sick certainty that my life was about to get infinitely more complicated. At the police station, they put me in an interrogation room and left me alone for what felt like hours. When someone finally entered, it wasn't a regular detective. It was an FBI agent. A woman in her 40s, with sharp eyes and an expression that said she'd heard every lie imaginable. Mrs. Russo, I'm Agent Sarah Chin. I've been investigating your husband's operations for the past 2 years, and you're going to help me build a case against him. I don't know anything about his operations. I'm just his wife. You're his wife who was present during an attack by a rival crime family. You're his wife who's been living in his house for 6 months, attending family functions, being part of his world. You know things, Mrs. Russo, and you're going to tell me everything. I won't. I have nothing to say. Agent Chun leaned forward, her voice low and dangerous. I'd advise you to be smart, Mrs. Russo, because right now you're facing potential charges as an accessory to organized crime, money laundering, and conspiracy. Unless you cooperate, then maybe, just maybe, we can make a deal. They left me alone again, and I tried calling Luca's phone repeatedly. It went straight to voicemail every time. Was he dead? Arrested? Hiding? I had no way to know. Finally, after what must have been 6 hours, a lawyer appeared. Not one I'd hired. One Luca had apparently sent. Patricia, the same stern woman who'd witnessed our contract signing. Don't say anything else to anyone, she instructed immediately. Not without me present. The FBI has nothing on you. You've been married 6 months. You're not involved in business operations. You have no knowledge of illegal activities. They're fishing. But the attack. Marco got shot protecting me. I don't even know if Luca's alive. Mr. Russo is fine. He dealt with the attack, eliminated the threat, and is currently handling cleanup. He sent me to get you released and ensure you don't say anything that could be used against either of you. So, he's okay? He's alive? He's fine. Concerned about you, but fine. Now let's get you out of here. It took another 4 hours of legal maneuvering, but Patricia got me released without charges. I walked out of the police station at 3 a.m. to find Luca waiting by a car, looking exhausted and furious and relieved all at once. You're okay, he said, pulling me into his arms before I could even process seeing him. When Marco called to say he'd gotten you out, but was hit. I thought. He didn't finish the sentence, just held me tighter. I thought you were dead. I called, and you didn't answer. I was dealing with the Castellanos, making sure they understood that attacking my home, attacking you, meant war. It's handled now. They won't try again. Handled how, Luca? What did you do? He cupped my face in his hands, his eyes pleading. What I had to do to keep you safe. Don't ask for details, Zoe. You don't want the answers to those questions. In the car ride back to the mansion, which was being cleaned and repaired, all evidence of the attack being systematically erased, Luca held my hand tightly, like he was afraid I'd disappear. The divorce papers, he said finally, his voice strained. I'm not filing them. What? We agreed. I don't care what we agreed. Tonight, I almost lost you. I spent hours not knowing if you were safe, if you'd been taken, if I'd ever see you again. That clarified things for me. I'm not letting you go, Zoe. Not now. Not ever. You don't get to make that decision unilaterally. This was an arrangement with an expiration date. This stopped being an arrangement months ago. We both know it. You can lie to yourself about your feelings, but you can't lie to me. I saw your face when you thought I was dead. That's not business partner concern. That's love. Love isn't enough, Luca. Your world almost got me killed tonight. Your world got Marco shot. Your world had me sitting in an FBI interrogation for 6 hours, being threatened with conspiracy charges. That's not a life I can live. Then I'll change my life. Scale back operations. Distance myself from the dangerous elements. I'll do whatever it takes to make this work. You can't just change who you are, Luca. Your family, your business. It's part of you. Asking you to walk away from it is asking you to stop being yourself. He was silent for a long moment, his grip on my hand tightening. Then what do you suggest? We just give up? Walk away from what we have because it's complicated? Yes, because complicated will destroy us. Better to end it now while we can still walk away, mostly intact. We arrived at the mansion to find it looking eerily normal. All evidence of the attack had been cleaned away, security had been doubled, and everything was back to its careful illusion of safety. Luca followed me to my room, watching as I pulled out my suitcase and started packing again. You're really leaving? I have to. Tonight proved that this world, your world, I can't survive it. I'm a teacher, Luca. I'm supposed to grade papers and attend faculty meetings, not get shot at and interrogated by the FBI. You're also the woman I love. That has to count for something. It counts for everything. That's why I'm leaving. Because if I stay, eventually your world will destroy what we have. Better to end it now, preserve the good parts. Remember this as something beautiful instead of letting it turn ugly. That's the most cowardly thing I've ever heard. You love me. I love you. But you're running because you're scared. Yes. I'm terrified. Tonight, I watched a good man get shot protecting me. I spent hours thinking you were dead. I was threatened with federal charges for the crime of being married to you. I'm absolutely terrified, and I'm smart enough to recognize when I'm in over my head. So that's it? You just leave? Take your money and pretend these 6 months didn't happen? I take my money, go back to California, rebuild my career, and try to forget I ever fell in love with someone. Impossible. Tears were streaming down my face now. I'm not strong enough for your world, Luca. I wish I was, but I'm not. He was quiet for a long time, watching me pack with an expression that looked like heartbreak. Finally, he reached into his pocket. If you're determined to leave, at least let me give you something. A way to stay connected. Stay safe. He pulled out a business card and wrote a number on the back. This is my private line. Not the one everyone has, just mine. If you ever need anything, help, money, protection, just someone to talk to, call this number. I'll answer. Always. He pressed the card into my hand, his eyes searching mine. Luca, I'm not asking you to stay. I'm asking you to accept that even if we're not together, I still care about your safety. That doesn't expire when you walk out that door. Take the number, please. I took it, tucked it into my wallet, my fingers trembling. Thank you for everything, for being kinder than you had to be, For making me feel things I thought I'd never feel again. For 6 months of being more than just an arrangement. It was never just an arrangement, he said softly, his voice thick with emotion. Not for me. I hope someday you'll believe that. I finished packing, called a car service, and left while I still had the courage. I didn't look back at the mansion, at the life I was walking away from, at the man standing in the doorway watching me leave. 3 days later, I was back in California, crashing with Emma while I figured out my next steps. The money Luca had paid me was safely in my bank account, more than enough to pay off all my student loans, rent a new apartment, and take my time finding a teaching position. Financial freedom felt hollow compared to what I'd left behind. You did the right thing, Emma assured me, for the 100th time. He's a criminal, Zoe. You can't build a life with a criminal. I know, I said, staring out the window at the familiar California sunshine. Doesn't make it hurt less. Give it time. You'll move on. Find someone normal and safe and appropriate for you. But I didn't want normal or safe or appropriate. I wanted complicated and dangerous and impossible. I wanted Luca. 2 weeks after leaving Vegas, I got a text from an unknown number. Asterisk Marco's awake. Made a full recovery. Wanted you to know. L**. I stared at that message for an hour before responding. Asterisk I'm glad. Thank you for telling me. A week after that, I got another text. Asterisk my father asked about you. Told him we're taking time apart. Family thinks it's temporary. L**. I hesitated, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. Asterisk is it temporary? The reply came almost immediately. Asterisk that's up to you. Doors always open. L**. We fell into a pattern. Occasional texts, updates on his family, on my job search. A carefully maintained connection that felt both necessary and painful. He never pushed for more, never demanded I come back. Just stayed present, stayed available, stayed there. I got a teaching position at a private school, moved into a nice apartment, and started rebuilding my life. On paper, everything was working out. In reality, I felt hollow, going through the motions, functioning but not living. You need to either go back to him or move on completely, Emma said 3 months after I'd left. This half-connected thing is keeping you stuck. Make a choice, Zoe. I had made a choice. I left. Then why are you still wearing your wedding ring? I glanced down at my hand, and Emma's words stung with truth. The gaudy engagement ring was gone, a casualty of my departure, but the simple, unassuming wedding band remained. I told myself it was simply easier than launching into explanations to every stranger who glanced at it. A convenient shield. But the truth, the painful, undeniable truth, was that I wasn't ready. Not ready to sever that last tangible link. Not ready to fully admit that it was over. That night, fueled by loneliness and a desperate need for connection, I unearthed the card bearing Luca's private number. It felt like a forbidden artifact, a relic of a life I was trying to bury. For a solid hour, I sat staring at the digits, a battlefield of conflicting emotions raging within me. Finally, with trembling fingers, I dialed. He answered on the first ring, his voice a husky whisper that sent shivers down my spine. Zoe? Hi, Luca. I know it's late. I needed to hear your voice. I needed to hear yours too. How are you functioning? The same. Missing you, but functioning. We talked for an hour, a meandering conversation that danced between the mundane and the deeply personal, carefully avoiding the chasm that had opened between us. We spoke of the weather, of work, of trivial things that filled our days, and yet, somehow, beneath the surface, we were talking about us. When we finally hung up, a strange sense of calm settled over me, a fragile peace I hadn't felt in months. Emma was right. I was trapped in a destructive limbo. I needed to make a choice, a definitive one. Either turn back, face the fire, or forge a new path forward, alone. The decision, or rather, the catalyst that forced my hand, arrived 4 months after I'd left Vegas. I was hunched over a stack of papers, the fluorescent lights of my classroom casting long shadows across the room, when my phone buzzed with an unknown number. Not Luca's private line. Someone else. Is this Zoe Russo? The voice on the other end was tight, laced with barely suppressed panic. "This is Zoe Mitchell." "Who's calling?" "This is Gianna, Luca's sister. I'm calling because, Zoe, something's happened. Luca's been shot. He's in surgery now, and they don't know if he'll make it. I thought you should know." The world tilted on its axis. The air seemed to thin, and a ringing filled my ears. "Shot? Luca? What hospital?" I managed to choke out. "Sunrise Medical in Vegas." "But Zoe, you should know the FBI is here. They're investigating the shooting, asking questions about family business. Coming here might not be safe for you." Safety was a distant, irrelevant concept. "I don't care. I'll be on the next flight." Adrenaline coursed through my veins. I called in sick to work, threw a haphazard collection of clothes into a bag, and was hurtling towards the airport within the hour. The 6-hour flight to Vegas was an agonizing eternity, each minute stretching into an unbearable weight of fear and uncertainty. Was Luca alive? Would I get there in time? Would the last conversation we'd had be our final one? A testament to unspoken regrets and unresolved pain? When I finally arrived at the hospital, the Russo family had commandeered an entire waiting room, their faces etched with worry and a simmering undercurrent of rage. Carmela saw me first, her stoic facade crumbling with a wave of relief. "Zoe, you came. Thank God you came. He's been asking for you. Even sedated, he's been saying your name. Is he going to be okay? They don't know yet." The bullet hit near his spine. "If he survives, he might not walk again." She gripped my hands, her eyes pleading. "But he'll survive better knowing you're here. Go see him. Room 437. They'll let you in. You're still legally his wife." I'd completely forgotten about that inconvenient truth. In our haste to escape, to sever ties, we'd never filed the divorce papers. On paper, we were still bound. Room 437 held a version of Luca I'd never seen before, a stark contrast to the powerful, untouchable man I knew. He was vulnerable, broken, tethered to a web of machines that beeped and whirred with unnerving regularity. His eyes were closed, his face pale and drawn, so still he barely seemed alive. "Hey," I said softly, reaching for his hand. "I hear you've been asking for me. That's not very moving on of you." His eyelids fluttered open, and it took a moment for his eyes to focus. When they did, his expression transformed, a flicker of recognition and something akin to hope igniting within their depths. "Zoe, you're here. You're really here." "Of course I'm here. Gianna called, said you got yourself shot like an idiot. Business deal went bad. Should have seen it coming." His voice was weak, the words slightly slurred from the medication. "Thought I was going to die without seeing you again. Without telling you. I was sorry." "Sorry for what?" "For letting you leave. For not fighting harder to keep you. For choosing my world over our future." He squeezed my hand weakly. "I've been miserable without you. Everyone can see it. My father keeps asking when you're coming back. Says I'm useless like this." "You're not useless. You're just human. Turns out, I'm kind of fond of human you." "Fond enough to stay? Or are you just here out of obligation?" "I'm here because when I thought you might die, I realized I'd rather have complicated and dangerous with you than safe and boring without you. I love you, Luca. I tried to walk away, move on, forget, but I can't. You're it for me." Tears slipped down his face, a testament to the depth of his pain and the sincerity of his words. "I love you too, so much. These 4 months without you have been hell. I scaled back operations, distanced myself from the dangerous parts, trying to become someone you could build a life with. You don't have to change who you are. I just need you to be honest with me. No more secrets, no more keeping me separate from reality. If we do this, we do it for real. Full partnership, even knowing the risks, the FBI investigation, the rival families, all of it. Especially knowing the risks. I'm done pretending I can live without you. We'll figure out the rest together." He pulled me down for a kiss, gentle because of his injuries, but fierce with emotion. "Marry me again. A real wedding this time, not drunk in Vegas, but conscious and choosing each other completely. We're already married, remember? Never filed the divorce papers. Then let's renew our vows. Make this official. Make it real. Show everyone we're choosing this. Okay. Okay. Yes. When you can actually stand without machines, we'll have a real wedding. Deal? Deal. His recovery was a long and arduous process, spanning 3 grueling months. The bullet had damaged his spine, leaving him temporarily weakened and dependent. I stayed in Vegas the entire time, a constant presence by his side. I slept in uncomfortable hospital chairs, then in the opulent but sterile confines of his mansion once he was released. I helped with his physical therapy, patiently coaxing him through exercises, and navigated his frustration and anger at being temporarily robbed of his strength. "I hate this," he said one evening during PT, his voice laced with bitterness. "Being dependent, vulnerable. This isn't who I am. It's who you are right now, and I love this version too. The one who needs help, who's not always in control. You're allowed to be human, Luca. You've changed your tune. For months ago, you were running from my humanity. For months ago, I was scared. Now I'm just committed. There's a difference." The FBI investigation ultimately fizzled out, lacking sufficient evidence to indict anyone. The Russo family's lawyers, as always, proved to be formidable. Life slowly, tentatively, returned to something resembling normal. Luca gradually transitioned more of his operations to legitimate businesses, though he maintained certain connections to the family, a necessary evil, he explained. "I can't walk away completely," he admitted, "but I can minimize the risk, focus on legal enterprises. It's the best of both worlds, staying connected to family while keeping you safer. I'm not asking for perfect safety, just honesty and effort. That's enough." 6 months after the shooting, we held our vow renewal ceremony, a small, intimate gathering of family and close friends in the manicured gardens of the mansion. I wore a dress I'd chosen myself this time, a simple, elegant creation that felt like a true reflection of me. He wore a suit, impeccably tailored, and, thankfully, free of bullet holes and bloodstains. When we exchanged vows, they were raw and heartfelt, a testament to the trials we had overcome and the future we were choosing. "I promise to love you despite the complications, to choose you even when it's difficult, to build a life with you that's messy and imperfect, but ours." My vows drew tears from several of the guests, a testament to the power of our unlikely love story. "I promise to be worthy of your choice, to protect you while respecting your strength, to love you with everything I am, dangerous parts included." He'd made me cry. When the officiant pronounced us husband and wife, again, everyone laughed. A collective release of tension and a celebration of our improbable union. We kissed like we meant it because we did. Life after the renewal was different, better, more honest. I took a teaching job at a private school in Vegas, one that asked fewer questions about my husband's business dealings. We had family dinners every week, where I was treated like I'd always been a Russo, welcomed into the fold without reservation. Carmela taught me Italian family recipes, passing down generations of culinary secrets. Gianna became my closest confidant, a sister in every sense of the word. Marco, fully recovered from his own brush with death, joked that he'd gotten shot just to bring us back together. "Worth it," he'd said, a mischievous glint in his eyes. "Boss is happier than I've ever seen him." 2 years into our real marriage, I got pregnant. Luca's reaction was a kaleidoscope of emotions. Pure, unadulterated joy mixed with a healthy dose of terror. "I'm going to be a father," he stammered, his eyes wide with disbelief. "A real father. What if I'm terrible at it?" "Then you'll learn like everyone else. We'll figure it out together." Our daughter, Sophia, was born on a bright spring morning, a tiny bundle of perfection that instantly captivated our hearts. Watching Luca hold her for the first time, this dangerous man reduced to tears by an 8-pound baby, I knew we'd made the right choice. A complicated, messy, imperfect choice, but undeniably ours. "She's perfect," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "Like her mother, she's ours. That's what matters." 5 years later, our son, Marco, named after the man who'd saved my life, completed our family. We'd settled into a comfortable domesticity that would have seemed utterly impossible during those tumultuous first 6 months. Luca had fully transitioned to legitimate business, severing his ties to the darker aspects of his past. We had movie nights and family dinners and all the ordinary chaos of raising 2 young children. "Remember when you woke up in my mansion with no memory and a ring on your finger?" Luca asked one evening, a nostalgic smile playing on his lips. We were watching our kids play in the garden, Sophia patiently teaching Marco to kick a soccer ball. How could I forget? Worst hangover of my life, followed by the strangest marriage proposal. Best drunk decision you ever made. Best sober decision I made was staying, coming back, choosing you repeatedly. You know what's funny? The contract said 6 months. We're at 7 years. I think you breached the agreement. Sue me. He grinned, a flash of the old Luca. Oh wait, you can't. We're still married. He pulled me close, kissing me thoroughly. Best loophole I ever found. 10 years after that fateful Vegas chapel, we celebrated our anniversary. The drunk one and the sober one, with the whole family. Emma flew in from California, still marveling at how her responsible best friend had ended up married to a reformed mob boss. "You two are disgusting," she said, watching us dance, still acting like newlyweds after a decade. "It's unnatural. It's complicated," I corrected. "But it works." That night, alone in our room, Luca pulled out a small velvet box. Inside was a new ring, a simple platinum band with a delicate inscription. "Best mistake I ever made. An upgrade from the drunk Vegas ring," he said, his eyes twinkling. "This one you'll actually remember getting." I remember everything about us now, even the parts one was too drunk to experience the first time. I slipped on the new ring, admiring how it caught the light. "Thank you for making our impossible start into something beautiful. Thank you for waking up in my mansion and not immediately running away screaming. Give me credit, I considered it. But you stayed. That's what matters." We'd started with a blackout, a contract, and a fake marriage. We'd built something real, enduring, and profoundly meaningful through honesty, choice, and a stubborn commitment to making impossible things work. 10 years later, watching our kids play, running legitimate businesses, living complicated but genuine lives, we proved that sometimes the worst beginnings make the best stories. "Would you do it again?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "If you could go back, knowing everything we'd go through, every single part, the drunk chapel, the contract, the FBI interrogation, the shooting, all of it." He didn't hesitate. "Because it brought me you, that's worth any amount of chaos. You're very sentimental for a former criminal. You made me soft. I blame you entirely. I accept full responsibility." Our daughter called from the garden, wanting us to come play. We joined our children. This family we built from the strangest of foundations. And I realized that love didn't require perfect circumstances, just perfect commitment to making imperfect circumstances work. We'd proven that every day for 10 years, and we'd keep proving it for the rest of our lives.